we want to look at how Kenyan men raise their boys. And I'm focusing on boys because boys end up being in the military, in the political leadership, and in the economic leadership of the country. So we want to look at how do Kenyan men raise their sons? Because when you see intergenerational poverty, poverty crossing generational lines, whereby the children are equally, if not more, poor than their parents, then it means that the values that are being transmitted down the line, are problematic. So, just by looking at the situation of poverty in Kenya, we can see that the values of poverty, the values of failure are being transmitted by the fathers to their sons. So how do Kenyan men raise their sons? What activities do you see Kenyan men participating together with their sons? What values do they transmit to their sons? Now we know that many Kenyan men are not directly involved in raising their sons. Like a lot of the raising is left to the mothers, with the father being, busy trying to look for income. So growing up, what do you remember your father telling you? What values did he pass on to you? Well, one of the values that a lot of fathers would pass when we were growing up would be for you to know your male identity. They were very, big on that. That as a boy, there are certain expectations that are put on you. And if you go to people who are still living outside not really outside, but in a more traditional way, you'll find that the role that boys play are already predetermined by their cultural traditions, if it from generation to generation. As you saw, as you can see even in this picture, you can see that there has to be a problem because the cultural values that men are transmitting to their sons are the values that are effeminate. Now, on the top of it, you wouldn't think that African men are effeminate because they tend to be, people say they tend to suppress their women. While this may be true, it doesn't mean that they are not effeminate, because once they encounter other men from other cultures, their behavior is very effeminate. And part of this effeminate culture is, how do I put this, is where the priority is set by the fathers within their own behavior and also the behavior of their sons. Let me put it this way. In Kenya, there's a shortage of positive male role models. And when I say positive role models, this is what I mean. When you look at the economic activities that Kenyan men, busy themselves doing, the role of innovator, the role of scientist, the role of inventor is usually avoided. Kenyan men don't see themselves that way. Do you see what I'm saying? So that within the cultural landscape, Kenyan man does not equal inventor, does not equal innovator. And in fact, the culture is toxic when it comes to such roles. So that what is interesting is that the poor people, what the country considers poor people, are the people who you will see trying to invent something or to innovate something. Every once in a while, you see a news media story of this guy from deep in the middle of nowhere having, trying to make, for example, a helicopter or to make his own vehicle. And it's dismissed. It's looked down upon. People don't celebrate. Kenyan men don't celebrate other Kenyan men who try to innovate anything. Do you see what I'm saying? And so those are effeminate cultural values. Because you'll find that within society, women tend to be very conservative. They tend to be the ones preserving the culture as is. And it is usually a masculine value to go against the culture and to be innovative, because innovation means you're going against the culture, you're going against a particular way of doing things. That's all that means. You're disrupting the way we do things. So that is a masculine value of innovation and invention and discovery, because for you to want to discover something, it means you are very aggressive. So those masculine values that have created the modern world, you don't find it in Kenyan men. And Kenyan men don't encourage their sons to be innovative, that is going against the grain, to be aggressive, that means to discover something new, or to rock the boat. in any way. You know, you are not meant to question the system. So Kenyan men don't raise their sons to question the system, to ask, why is this like this? Why is this like that? In fact, when they see their sons going in that direction, that is severely discouraged, because they call it rebelliousness. You are not, you know, even when I was growing up, I used to be failed in class all the time. The teachers would fail me in class because I would ask, you know, questions that I was not supposed to ask. And when even at university level, lecturers would still fail me if I didn't regurgitate whatever they had fed us. If I wrote something different from what they had said, even though it was valid and correct, they would immediately fail me. So you are not meant to question the idea that, for example, they would tell us in school that we came from monkeys. And I would question, who said we came from monkeys? So you're not supposed to question anything. You're supposed to accept everything as is. You don't rock the boat. So those are the cultural values that Kenyan men transmit to their sons, whether in education or in the house. And so that's why the system remains as is without being challenged by anyone. So what are African boys supposed to focus on as far as Kenyan men are concerned? Well, they're supposed to focus on, if you're going to innovate, you innovate a dance move. Okay? So that is celebrated. Don't innovate and come up with, you know, I don't know, a robot. Don't do that. You will be mocked in the media. The media will come just to mock you, to make fun of you. You know, the crab in a barrel kind of thinking. But if you innovate a dance move, you will get audience with the president. But if you innovate, let's say, you know, I don't know, something technical, you will never get an audience with the president, because that is not a value that Kenyan men want to transmit to their sons, because that goes against the neo-colonial culture that we have in Kenya. And the neo-colonial culture it's very simple. There are things that the Mzungu is supposed to do that you don't do. And if you try to do those things, you're not being authentic to yourself. So when it comes to, let's say, for example, wildlife conservation, that is a Mzungu value. As an African man, you have no business doing that. You understand? So when it comes to inventing technology, again, that is something that the Mzungu does. As an African boy, don't do that. See, that's not encouraged. When it comes to writing, philosophy, a new philosophy, again, that's not something that African boys are encouraged to do. You don't do that. That is for the Mzungu to do. Okay, so you stick to your lane. So what is your lane? Your lane is to follow anything that the foreigners do. Whatever they invent, you immediately follow. Whatever they come up with, you adopt. But you yourself don't go out there and think that you're going to come up with something. And even if you come up with something, it must first be approved by foreigners before we can accept it. And so you won't find any Kenyan man being a famous inventor. No. A famous innovator. Never. And it's very interesting to note that Kenyan engineers don't engineer. Kenyan archaeologists, they don't archaeology. They don't. All these people who study all this technical stuff, they actually don't do anything with that knowledge. So you'll find that we have so many universities in Kenya, and we have many problems in Kenya. But you will not find the Kenyan men who are the scientists, in quotes, in those universities, coming up with any kind of technical solution for the problems that the people have. For example, I saw this clip, and some student in some foreign university had come up with a straw which allows you to drink dirty water. Inside the straw is a filter, a very effective filter, so that when you drink water from a pond, however dirty, you will not get sick. It will filter out all the toxins and the bacteria and viruses and everything. And he said that his inspiration was, he saw like something on TV whereby he saw African children drinking water, dirty water, directly from the river. So he was inspired to come up with a technical solution. So I want you to think about that situation. We have over 10 universities right now in Kenya. And none of the scientists, in quotes, in those universities have ever come up with a technical solution to resolve the issue of people in rural areas or even urban areas having to drink untreated water. All these universities, all these so-called professors, all these so-called engineers, none of them could come up with a simple technical solution that this foreign student came up with. Do you see that something is wrong? Can you see that something is wrong? So what is wrong? Is it the education? Or is it the mind? Or is it the cultural values? It's all of them. Because the cultural value for innovation is despised in Kenya. All those people who innovate things in Kenya, all those people who invent things in Kenya are mocked. They are laughed at. Oh, that guy thinks he's going to build a plane. The engineers in the universities, they don't say we will partner with this guy and we'll actually try and help him make his plane fly. No, they mock him. That's not what you do with an engineering degree. You don't build stuff. So what do you do with it? So the cultural values of failure are embedded within the culture. And they're embedded in the way Kenyan men bring up their sons. So this is part of the neocolonial culture that encourages men to be more effeminate, not to be aggressive, not to try and change things, not to try and rock the boat. And so every single pursuit that is intellectual, every single pursuit that encourages critical thinking skills, logical reasoning, is incredibly discouraged, because the African man in Kenya is supposed to be emotional, effeminate, bow down to the foreigner, never be aggressive against the system, and be passive. And these are effeminate values. So until we understand the psychology of poor countries, the psychology of poor people, a whole country full of poor people, until you understand that psychology and what sustains it, it becomes very difficult to fight against poverty. And as always, our interest is in defeating poverty. And so this is just one more factor that encourages and sustains poverty in Kenya. We do have psychologists, but they never study the psychology of third world countries, because their focus is on Western style psychology of self-help and self-actualization and self-indulgence and the worship of self. But they will never focus on a more African-centered psychology, because they were not trained that way. They were trained in foreign methods to serve foreign purposes. And because the values of innovation are not allowed, they can never think outside that box. So we need innovation in psychology. We need, psychologists to look into this situation where the values of innovation, technology, science, mathematics are severely discouraged within the general coconut culture that is in control in Kenya. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and comment below. Kenya's time has come. Our time has come. Your time has come. A time to succeed and not fail. A time to grow wealth and not poverty. A time to go up and not down. It's time for you to stop walking and drive your car. Stop renting and buy yourself a house. It's your time to get blessed. Join the CCV movement, and together let us keep poverty and unemployment out of Kenya. Become a member today. Donate what you can. And remember that the CCV is the only political organization in Kenya that is squarely built upon Christian values, unlike the rest. We'll see you next time. Thank you.